we are live, ladies and gentlemen. And today we've got royalty in the house. Nobody else can. Victoria Reynolds is here to talk to us. Victoria's from California. So, like most of the people that are listening to this know California from the Beach Boys, Dr. Dre, The Wine, Hollywood, to Western movies. And just before this started, I just listened to California Girls from Beach Boys to get into the mood to talk to. Nice to meet you. I chose not to read into you too much or to read biographies because I wanted to, meet you and with a blank slate and just get to know you without reading or knowing anything in advance. So tell us, Victoria, tell us about you.
What's funny is that I did the same thing. So I've been to Curacao. It's one of my favorite islands. Mm-hmm. And I would play steel drums. I have a steel drum I play before I go on my trip to the Caribbean. And so I get that, to get in the mood of going on holiday.
Yeah.
And that is one of my favorite islands. I have to say that my husband and I made a deal a few years ago, about 10 years ago, that we would visit a different island every summer. My kids are islanded out. They're tired of going to a different island because they all kind of run into each other. But Curacao was the second island that we went to with the kids, and we all just loved it. Rent a car and drive around the little island and get to know the people and the culture. And we're not stay in the hotel all the time people. We were more of the get out of the hotel and actually get to know the people. And I love that island.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's great, because then we have at least something in common to start off with right away. So when did you come here?
Let me think. I want to say, and actually this is really, really interesting. I was flipping through my phone. Here's synchronicity for you, how it works. I was flipping through my phone yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And I found a video that I took on vacation. We were in the Marriott Hotel. Mm-hmm. Everybody, it's not a very big island. Everybody knows where the Marriott Hotel is. Yeah. Yes. So we were in the Marriott, and the video that I took of these birds that had come and landed on the patio, and my daughter, I could hear in the background saying, Mommy, the T-birds are back. And so it was funny. I looked at the time when we did that. It was 2013. So I kind of had to do the math. What island were we at when we took this video? And it was 2013 when we were in Curacao. My kids were quite small.
Wow, 20. Wow, today's the 13th, a new moon. So interesting. Yeah. And now tell me a little bit about you, your youth. Let's start about that. Your childhood. How? Were you born in California or somewhere else?
Oh my gosh, no. My childhood is a trip. I guarantee you've never met anybody like me. I grew up in a place called Montana, which is the northern part of the U.S. It's very cold most of the year. Mm-hmm. We have winter from September through May. Sometimes I've even seen it snow all the way from September to June. So it's very cold. I grew up in I was just thinking about this today. I grew up in a community with no name and a religion with no name.
Oh. Interesting. How come?
So I grew up in a place called The Ranch with a religion called the All Reds. That is all I knew as a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's like a type of Christian, assume religion?
Sort of. I call it what I found out years later, it was fundamentalist Mormon, but I didn't know that. I didn't know until I was in my 20s that it actually had a basis. Mm-hmm. My family was one of only 6 families that settled this community with the religious cults. And the primary belief behind the entire community was polygamy. So everybody in the community was polygamous.
Men and women? Only men. Only men, right?
No, the way the belief was that men could only get to heaven if they had at least 3 wives. And women couldn't get to heaven unless they let their husband have at least 3 wives.
Oh, so polygamy from the men only allowed.
Yeah. Technically, the technical word for that is polygyny.
Yeah. And the other one would be like something, the female.
I don't know. I guess there's one culture I heard of in China where the woman has more than one husband.
Yes. Yeah, I read about that in, I think it's somewhere in Nepal, very close to the Himalaya. Mm-hmm. There was like one group of people where only the women were allowed to have 3 husbands.
Mm-hmm. I think that was for genetic diversity more than anything.
Yes, probably. I mean,
yeah.
Fascinating. Because I hardly handle one. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not for me. I can tell you, it's very, very complicated. I think monogamy is complicated and difficult. Putting more than one person in the mix is very difficult. Polygyny tends to be associated with fundamentalist religions, and I'm not a fan of it. It's really when you come down to it, it's about the ownership and control of women. It's very, very different than polyamory. So people get polygamy and polyamory confused, but polyamory is the love of many people, and it's much more. And polygyny is a marriage contract between a man and multiple women, and it's pretty much impossible to get out of because it's.
Did you find it to be like suppressive for you back then, or did you find that feeling in hindsight? Because a lot of things I consider them normal, or I lived my life in a way and I was completely happy. And later when I noticed the possibilities, then it was like hard for me to like know, or
Right. Yeah. So when we're little, we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. That's normal. I thought that was normal. I didn't know anything that wasn't that. I wasn't allowed to see the outside world. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know there was anything else. And also when I was small, I was told that anybody who wasn't a part of our community worked for the devil. So I was afraid of anybody else, afraid of doing anything else. That was all normal for me. Yeah.
So obviously, now I'm understanding why you called your show Free and Fearless, because you grew up in a situation where like a little bit fear, right? Was in one way or the other?
Very fearful. Yeah. I didn't even realize it until years later, looking back, the entire culture was built around fear. I call it fear disguised as love. Because that's happening a lot on our planet.
Yes, because I assume they're going to say protection. So they're trying to protect you, and under that they can take away your freedom. Mm-hmm. It's funny because it's that's what all institutions do, like because that's what the churches do, that's what the state do, that's what most institutions do, I think. Right. Yeah,
and control disguised as security.
Yes, and it's funny because like I felt in that trap too. I mean, I'm to be really honest, like you're the first person on my show, an American. That's something I think I attracted by the law of attraction, because like a year ago, when the pandemic came and so on, I had like a vision of my reality, and I was always because like in Curacao, it's a Dutch island. We are part of the Dutch kingdom. We have the Dutch citizenship. So the situation is very similar to the one of Puerto Rico and the US. So I'm like the majority of the people of Curacao. I go here to the school, go to high school, and university. I went to Amsterdam. You go to the Holland to go to college, and so the training and the way I was raised was pretty European, and I've always been like puzzled by the Americans. I'm like, these people weird, you know, like, and I said, and now a lot of things that that for me were very strange about Americans, because now that I've seen what the state can do, now I understand why the Americans are the way they are. And I remember, like, I had like people on my show from England, and because of my connection to Europe, I know more people from Europe, so it's easy for me to get someone from Holland on the show, someone from Belgium, but I'm like, oh, I would love to talk to an American, and something very, and I couldn't manage to find anyone, no one.
Wow.
You know? I begged, sent messages, but I'm like, okay. But I would love to talk, because I mean, I know American is a very broad thing, as East Coast, West, but just there's still something that there's in common, and because we have like a group of people who left Europe, left security, to go in a situation that is quite vulnerable. You're coming to a new land with all kinds of snakes, animals, human beings, but that for you, like the Indians, I mean, that was not like a very pleasant, you know, because I understand from both sides. But regardless, I mean, you're leaving a situation, you're leaving security and of home, leaving family behind, leaving everything behind to come to a new land with all the and in a situation that's not very comfortable. So I think that's in your genes, and it probably like epigenetics. By epigenetics, you have already like a more you're more careful with the state, and and I was more innocent, and now I tend to understand a lot of things that that before I'm like, what's, you know, like just. For example, like how what this obsession with guns. What's wrong with these people? Why do they actually have guns? These people are psycho. What are they afraid of? You know, what are they worried about? Or things. You don't have healthcare. You know, healthcare. You know.
Americans have at the core of the American culture, we are all, I guess, pioneers, I guess is a good word for it. So every person who has come to America, now in my case, my family's been here for 100 years, but every person who has come to America, even the Africans when they came here, came from someplace else. Very few of the people who are in the United States are indigenous people.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that I won't get into the details of what happened there, but there are not a lot of indigenous people here. So every person who came here, literally, even the Africans, were uprooted from their previous experience. So every person that's here is a kind of an adventurous, like that adventure is built into the epigenetics of the American culture of and with that need for freedom and adventure, there's also that security that comes with it. That's where the gun thing came from. I got to have my gun because I got to protect my stuff, you know, and the Wild West, and that wildness, I think, is still a part of the epigenetics of the American culture. The whole medical healthcare thing, that's just a disaster right now, because we're not being told the true story of what we're capable of. And right now, and I don't know about in other countries, but right now in the United States, if you are in natural medicine at all, it's very difficult, because our country is so run by oligarchs, and the money can.
By making you, but by the funny thing about that, because like here, of course, like they don't pay. In Europe, like there are a lot of countries where, like I think in Germany, you can Reiki can be taken into the health package. So you can choose a health package that accepts alternative medicine and homeopathic. So it's like it's a little bit more open-minded, but I think that probably everything has like two sides to it, in the sense of, okay, they gave us free healthcare. I mean, if I have got cancer tomorrow, I won't have to worry about bills. If I'm run by a bus, I don't have to worry about bills. Okay, so that's my peace of mind. But on the other side, the reason why this is done like this is to keep you. It gives the state a certain control over you. So, and because in America, maybe you're like more vulnerable, you're more open to look to alternatives.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, so here's one of the discussions I have with people. There really is no such thing as free healthcare. It's paid for by our taxes.
Yes. Okay. But I mean,
it's not free.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
but it's wrapped in, so it's not as obvious that it's not free. It's wrapped into the tax structure. And yeah, so with the security also comes the control.
Yes. So nothing is for free. Nothing is for free. Some ways, it looks like that, but it isn't. And that's why I think I made a video about that that's why Americans are more self-confident, and they're like more because I mean they are not going to give up their freedom. Yes. And freedom is built into the makeup of our being, and Americans do not. They will fight to the death for their freedom, and that's why the socialized medicine is having a difficult time making its way into the American system, because Americans are not about to give up their freedom. Yes.
The freedom to carry their guns, the freedom to go to whatever. It's all about freedom is at the very core of the American structure. So,
yes, but of course here we have that freedom too. I mean, I can pay, but if I can't pay or I don't want to pay, I have a bank here. Like, so it's like you have both. In America, it's more complicated because the options that they want to come with is to close off. So it's, okay, we're going too technical. But what I want to say is basically that yes, when you value your freedom, and when there's nothing, when you're in a situation when you have to, you're free. Okay, you're free. That means that you're free to take care of stuff. And I think that because of that, then maybe you're more open to other options. It makes you feel stronger. It makes you, yes, because like we are so used to rely on the state, but okay, it's a story apart. The time is flying by like crazy. It's just, no, because it's like I'm in a kind of bus. Okay, so you were talking, like you grew up like in a situation of like fear and so on. High school was like the same, or did it evolve? Or
no? So high school, I talked my parents into letting me go to public high school. So the way that I grew up, girls weren't allowed to have an education, which I know is so bizarre for people to even think about. That in America there are places where girls still aren't allowed to have an education. So I was told that I didn't need to have school after 8th grade. Because I was just going to grow up, get married, and have kids. Like that was the whole purpose for my existence, was to get married and have kids. There was a part of me that wasn't enough for me. So I convinced my parents to let me go to public high school, which was about 10 miles from where I grew up. That ended up not being a very good experience for me. I grew up so sheltered that I really didn't know how to communicate with people. I ended up being severely bullied and sexually assaulted, and I actually ended up dropping out of high school because I couldn't, because of some things that happened in school. And yeah, and then I had a battle with suicide. You know, I really, I tell people this. What I really wanted was for somebody to kill me and put me out of my misery.
So bad.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I went to school. I was bullied too, but that's yeah. I think it was. Yes, I can relate, but it's I think that because I cannot say anything about it because part of my mind has like forgotten. I know that I've been bullied. I was bullied a lot. I know that the only thing I remember about it, because like I said, because I wanted to forget it, because I was pretty smart compared to the other, to like the most kids, I got into like a very more posh school. But at the posh schools, you had like the more children with more money. And like, although my father was a teacher, it was like we were middle class, but we were 4 kids. So, you know, I couldn't afford like all these shoes and all these clothes and all these things that the other kids could have. And I remember that because of that, you know, I was very afraid. And but that's funny because and during the breaks, I would run to the library to be safe. And now, as you see, I'm still safe.
You have all the books behind you. Oh my gosh.
So what I remember about that, like I said, I only remember like the knowledge I acquired in high school. And I remember like going when there was a break, going to the library, sitting there in the air conditioning, sitting there reading, and when the break was over, going back to my classroom, and that way I avoided the majority of the things. That's what I remember. But like I said, because for me to stay happy, my brain blocks things that I'm not supposed to remember, or you know, so I don't even remember anymore what they were doing with me. The only thing I know is that I spent the most of the time in the library, and that there is where I developed the love for books and stories and living an alternative life that was more beautiful than the one I was living. And you know, that's why I studied literature and language literature, and I understood that how words could destroy or words could build, and all that made me a linguist. So that's the only, like, if we have to say, because if we talk about the thing that everything happens for a reason, that's the only, like, because I assume that it must have an advantage. Because if it doesn't have an advantage, it doesn't happen, right?
Right.
So
right. So on the positive, because there's 2 sides to every story, right? As we were saying earlier. So on the positive side of that story is, had the bullying not happened, you would have never found your love of books and found your that library. So things happen for a reason. And so that's why I think that's why you're not even remembering the bullying stuff, because that's really irrelevant to, that's just part of the story that led to who you're really meant to be.
Yes. And then,
in my case, it's part of my story because I use it as a teaching, part of the teaching modality. But it's so all the negative things that happen in our life can actually lead to something positive. And so for me, had I not been raised the way that I was raised, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine, like, because it's with me. I remember that, like, when that's why there was a time where I was earning lots of money, and I would buy all these nice clothes, all this stuff, because I was bullied when I didn't have them. So I started to believe that I had to surround myself with valuable things to feel valuable. And so, you know, but later on, I got rid of that too. But I mean, I think that, like, the injuries or the damage, they express themselves in several ways. But, you know, I'm not, like, now that I talk to you, I think about it, but I'm not like, like I said, because it's like in the past, I'm like, okay, you know, it's in the past. You know, and because if not, you know, life would be too complicated and too miserable and what have you. Okay,
right,
so
well, the past just exists for us to learn from it, right?
Yes,
just to learn from it, and being a human being is a continual learning lesson.
Yes. And no, so like you had a very difficult high school, and then as adult, how was your life as adult? So you got married, got the family.
Yeah, so I actually ended up running away from home as a teenager, and I found a way to the big city, which is Salt Lake City, which is about maybe 12 hours away. And I lived there for about 5 years. I didn't graduate from high school. I got a certificate. It's called a GED certificate. And then I put myself in college. And I lived there for about 5 years. That was my party phase. I had to go through that. But I still had some real issues with depression. Yeah, I've pretty much have always had a battle with depression. But what I found really interesting is that when I was 21 years old, I got introduced to a spiritual center, and I got introduced to self-help books. And that saved my life, literally. I was very suicidal, and for the first time in my life, I saw hope for a better life. And I got sucked into self-help books. And what I recently realized is that as a child, I had a spiritual inclination, which is why my parents' religion never felt right for me, because I've always had a higher understanding of spirit, and I would ask questions they couldn't answer.
Yes,
and I knew things that they didn't know, and it was very confusing for the people around me in my religion because they couldn't have a conversation about things that seemed normal to me. So, but when I was 21, I got introduced to a spiritual center and self-help books, and that put me on a path of self-discovery. And it helped pull me out of my depression and into finding out who I really am. And I did that. And then at 27, I met my husband.
And I know that you're psychic, or that's
no. Well, psychic is a term for it. I'm actually what people would call a conscious channel. So psychic's a little bit different in that psychics can see what's happening in a person's path. And so if I would have a conversation with you, I could say, oh, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. That's not what I do. I'm what's called a conscious channel. So a conscious channel, I actually communicate with your higher self. Oh. So that we all have a stream of consciousness that that is within us, and then streams up to source, up into the greater I am presence. And so I can communicate with your higher self to find out what's going on in your life and how to resolve issues and look at things on your path from a spiritual perspective. So I don't necessarily see what's on your path on a physical perspective, which is what a psychic would do. I see it more from a spiritual perspective.
And then we come to something we have in common, something else, and that is Saint Germain, right?
Yes, I didn't know you had a connection to Saint Germain.
I mean, it's funny because I didn't know if I'm Saint Germain until I was adult already. It's amazing because I have a cousin, and she is a civil servant in The Hague, and she told me, and I mean, like, if you're like me or like you or like her, I mean, you don't need to be a psychic to imagine the bullying that you know that you have to. I mean, you know how this is, okay?
Yeah.
So she told me, Tibisay, I found this book. This book takes care of business. I mean, I'm going to come, because she was in The Hague, I was in Spain. She said, I'm going to buy you this book, and you need to read this book. And I said, this is not a prayer, this is not a meditation, this is action. This is like cuts, like a knife, you know? This is, I mean, I'm not spiritual, I'm not religious. this takes care of business, you know. I'm like, okay, you know. So I got she bought me this book as a gift.
Okay.
And
I don't
after
know that book.
I got like several of this series, but that's from her sister.
Okay.
Okay, but I mean, I remember because back then I was working as well at the as a civil servant. Because in Spain I was a linguist. And certainly when I came to Spain, I couldn't work as a teacher because I didn't have the Dutch, the nationality. But I could get a job as a translator, as a legal translator at court. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into details, but I mean, like. Never mind. Okay, she told me, and I'm like, I learned by heart. Beloved I am, present bright, from me see your tube of light, from ascended master's flame. Call forth now in God's own name. Let it keep my temple free from all discord sent to me. I'm calling forth wildfire to blaze dust me with all desire. Keeping on in freedom's name till I'm one with violet flame. She told me, learn that by heart. Okay? You know, so I learned that by heart. That's one of the several things here.
Okay.
Like besides, of course, I'm a being of wildfire. I'm the purity God desires. I'm telling you.
So is that the violet flame of protection? Is that a?
That's a tube of light, or I think the name is the tube of light. So that's to protect you from discord, like protect you from discord, because I'm in a courthouse, eh? You know?
Right, that's what I was wondering. I heard you were calling in the violet flame. I was wondering if you were doing that for spiritual protection. Yes.
Yes. So I was she told me, yeah, and I learned that thing by heart. I mean, I still know it by heart. And I'm telling you, Victoria, I would sit on my desk with the files in front of me, and someone who saw me with the files would think that I was reading, you know, preparing for the declarations, because so that I'm better prepared when I have to do the translations. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, beloved, I am present, bright, around me, see, but I'm not saying, I'm just thinking it with my mouth shut. I'm like, you know, very like, I'm telling you, people would trouble would come to my desk, stay like this, you know, get diarrhea and run to the toilet. I've seen people stay like this, turn and leave, you know. So yeah. So and I would sit there, and just read the files and keep repeating that, sometimes 100 times, 200 times. And I'm, like I said, I'm someone who studied several methods, tools, and so on. And I mean, Saint Germain is, because like if you're stressed out, if you're having a bad attack of anxiety, you cannot meditate, because no. But you could, but you can run outside and start yelling, I am a being of fire, I'm the purity God desires. You can say that 500 times, although you don't feel that way that moment. You can yell that 500 times, and then when you're exhausted, you know, from all that yelling and your voice, now I can go meditate. It's like, so it's something that you can do. It doesn't matter in the despair you are, you know, it doesn't matter in what situation you are. If you start decreeing and decreeing and decreeing, you know, it's the most amazing thing. I mean, and meditation does miracles, but I would say that if I had to talk about the most powerful tool when you're like in a situation when you're like, you know, you can't breathe, panic attack and so on. I mean, that is the greatest thing I've ever done. So, I mean, it's fabulous. And I saw one show and you said like Saint Germain was, is my friend, and I got jealous.
He's pretty cool. Yeah. Well, he's one of the guardians of our planet.
Yeah.
And so and the violet flame is one of his tools. So what a lot of people don't understand is that our word is law. So when you say that, saying you're actually telling the universe to, I don't want to say bend it to your will, but that's kind of what it is. What we speak creates our reality. That's why we have to be really careful about the words that we use.
Yes.
Yeah. So the words that we use actually create our reality. So by using that mantra, you're creating that protection around yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still have to struggle, I have to admit, with using, I mean, I'm stricter with my words than my husband and many people. I mean, on average, I'm like more, but it's because I'm like, yeah, but this is the reality now, you know? So I tend to want to talk about the reality now.
Right.
But, and then at one moment, like, I think it was 3-4 days ago, I thought about something that I said, no, it's your hangover. It's not reality. It's your hangover. Mm-hmm. Why I discovered that? Because, I'm never ill, for example. No, I'm never ill. Never. It has happened that I've got, like, in the past, I had dengue, I had this, I got, like, and I would just lie down 2 weeks feeling like crap, then I feel better, and I mean, it doesn't faze me. Mm-hmm. And like, if I have a headache or for some reason I had something, I wouldn't tell anyone. And I'm like, why would I tell anyone? Are they a doctor? Why do, you know? Right. I just ignore it. I ignore it. And that's why I hardly get ill. I can get like something like a dengue or something because it's in the air. I lie down, feel bad, 2 weeks, then I feel better. I'm not afraid of the C virus. I'm not afraid. That doesn't faze me. I mean, I'm not playing this. I mean, you know, that's truly how I feel. And I think that's why things don't happen to me. And I'm like, okay, so if you never talk about how ill, if you have a headache, or if you don't tell anyone because the person is not it's not a doctor, so why are you talking all the time about your financial problems or other things? Then you should apply the same rules too, right? And then that struck me, and I'm like, oh, if I apply the rules that I apply, that makes me now in my 50s, and people don't notice that I'm in my 50s, and my body feels like a 30-year-old. Okay. If I would apply these rules, that I apply my health, that I do it automatically on automatic pilot. If I would apply them in other things, I probably would have less problems too. Right. But the thing is that it's like you need to get used to, you know?
Well, it's about complaining, right? If that when we complain, we actually create more of that thing that we're complaining about. And gratitude is the opposite of complaining. So if we flip the script and focus on gratitude, we get more of what we're grateful for.
Yes.
Just like we get more of what we complain about, we get more of what we're grateful for. So if we can flip it and not talk about the things that, you know, I'm sick, therefore I become more sick. That's kind of self-propagating. Instead of saying, I'm healthy and I just have a little glitch in that, right? And that's just that. It's like, you know, maybe my body needs to take a break for a couple of days and wants me to lay down. Because usually when we're sick, it's because our body's trying to tell us something. Yes. It's not because we're actually sick. It's my body has this cold virus. Well, it's because it really needs me to lay down and just be for a couple of days.
Yes, and you might, I mean, it's maybe embarrassing to say it, but I mean, when I'm ill, I actually enjoy it. Because I'm just like,
you're not having to take care of everybody else for a change.
I'm enjoying it. You're lying down, doing nothing, and you know.
I mean, you probably needed the time out.
Yeah. And I like let all the sensations go through my body, and you know, like if so, I never resisted. I think that's it. That, you know, that's, and that's something, I mean, that's something like aha moment I got like a couple of days ago. It's that some things you're just hung over and some things you aren't. And that's, yes. Wait, I mean, not just,
no, that was great, and I completely agree with that. Well, and actually, one thing that you said not to resist it, and then what I was being reminded is that what we resist persists. So the more we resist something, the more we're going to see more of that. So it's better just to say, okay, my body's not feeling well. I'm not going to resist it. I'm going to lay down, and then what is it my body's trying to tell me? Or in the case of finances, my finances aren't doing well. What is it that needs to be, that I need to take a look at? Rather than resisting it and trying to push it away. And certainly not telling everybody else about it, because that just makes it even bigger, makes it even worse.
Yeah. And something that I've evolved in with the years are relationships. This trick that I've learned is that because I think that my one of the things I was meant to learn in this lifetime is to love people regardless, you know, so that to love people who are different than me and be comfortable and with people that are different than me. And because I remember as a kid of 4 years old, I mean, my mom, I was sitting on the floor. My sister was 2 years old. My little brother was in the belly of my mom yelling. And I'm like, what am I doing here? You know, I remember that like as one of my first memories as a kid of 4 years old, maybe 3, I think it has to be like, no, it has to be even 3 because we weren't living in the new house. We were living in the old house. So, and later on, and my sister is different than me, totally different personality, my brother. So I think that I had to learn like to be in a house with people that are different and loving them regardless. And then I got married, and my husband is completely different. He is a military. He is like completely like a personality, completely different. And sometimes he says things that annoys me. Sometimes, and I've noticed something that like what you said, gratitude. I started to be grateful for him, and every time he would say something that annoyed me, you know, I would imagine how I would feel if he would have, I knew that he died tomorrow. And when he would say something to me, I'm like, he's like, you know? I'm like, oh, I love you so much. And so every time he's saying something to me, I'm like, he thinks I'm making fun of him, so he stops saying annoying things, you know, because it's like, because he's not achieving the thing that he wanted to achieve, you know. So it's like gratitude, you know. Okay, there's so many good things about him. The fact that he sometimes doesn't know when it's the right time to shut up, or, you know, some remarks are unpleasant, or, you know, things like that. You know, it's not him, it's me. I get annoyed because of certain things. And if I just, every time he says something, or every time like my daughter is like now she's 19, but like when she was like in that like 13, 14, if every time she says something that I consider to be disrespectful, yeah, I would like, okay. And I imagined, I'm like, okay, she's healthy. She's, you know, and I imagine, how would I react if I found out that she's going to die in 24 hours? Then I would like switch, because when I'm like, oh, you know, and then I switch suddenly, And I'm like, and I do the same thing. You know, I'm like, my little tutti daughter. My daughter is such a cutie pie. And then she's like, huh? You know? And then she's slowing down too because like,
I'm picturing doing that to my 18-year-old. She just would be, but I love that. Talk about a pattern shift.
Yeah.
Try that the next time my daughter says something disrespectful. Just come back with I love you too.
This is it. I'm so grateful for you. You know, I'm so grateful to be a mother and to experience being disrespected, because that's part of being a mom, is that sometimes because I mean I enjoyed the good things too. I mean, I enjoyed when seeing her take her first step. I've enjoyed the hugs too and the kisses too. So, you know, I have to enjoy this too, because this is part of the package. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, and I've noticed that when like, and I do that, and when I'm visualizing, instead of I visualize her hugging me, being nice to me, and you know, being loving, and but so when I do my visualizations, and I've noticed that happened. What I'm telling you is what happened like 2 weeks ago. She just came to me because sometimes, because I'm not very good at handling certain things, I avoid. I'm like, hello, bye. I just don't hang too much around her to avoid saying something that, you know.
Right.
But I would in the evening I would close my eyes and visualize us lying together, hugging, kissing, and loving each other. But I would stay away from her during the day. And I did that for several days. And like 2 weeks ago, she came. I was just sitting here, like doing my stuff. And she came to me and said, Mommy, I know that sometimes I behave, I don't behave in a nice way. But that doesn't mean that I don't love you. I love you so much. So, and I stood up and we hugged and hugged and hugged and hugged. And, she tells me, Mama, sometimes I have problems at school. There's the teacher. It's other things, you know. It's other things, and that's why I explode because of that. Huh? And you know, so it's I'm learning like to like smooth things, not by going after her, but visualizing what I want, you know. And I've noticed that she came to by herself to me. And it works. Being positive works. Being grateful works. It's just that sometimes you're in a state of mind that you're not able to do that. And that's why I love like the this too, and the Hempworx. I mean, I'm not Hempworx like CBD oil and those kinds of things. They're like more like for relaxing, for not stress, for helping with anxiety and so on. But yes, so I being happy and being in wonder and seeing the advantage of everything, it definitely works. So like we were talking about that. There's something that we had in common, our love for Saint Germain and
yes, yeah. You know, I love what you were just saying about your daughter, because I've been having some issues. I don't know if you saw some of the other videos I had, but I had been having some issues with my kids, which is getting better. That's a tool I hadn't thought about using for myself, is visualizing the relationship I want to have now, because my relationship with my kids is changing. What I discovered is that I was over mothering them and over parenting them. And the visual that I got was my teenagers with the pacifiers in their mouth, because I was still mothering them like little kids, and I needed to let them grow up and be young adults. And so I've been trying to figure out we were talking about the answers always come from, we never know where the answers are going to come. And you actually answered my question that I was asking yesterday. How can I best be a mom to my daughter now in this new relationship we're creating? And you just answered that for me.
Well, Fabulous.
Yeah, and it's about visualizing the kind of relationship that I want. And when she says something mean, how to respond to it.
Yes, it's I'm getting chills, but
that's amazing. And then the other thing I wanted to share, how powerful visioning is that's how we create our new world. People right now are focusing on all the bad things that are happening in the world, but the way we create the new world is by envisioning it. Mm-hmm. We're never going to create that complaining about what's happening. The only way we're going to fix it is if we visualize something different, visualize what we actually want.
That's true. And what people don't realize, I mean, I notice it more because I'm like, America is like the beacon of the world. It's like the example. It comes with a lot of innovations, a lot of stuff. And well, because I'm not an American, I can look like from a distance, and I notice like that both sides are brainwashed. Both sides are in pain. Both sides lack critical thinking, are too emotional. This person thinks Trump is an evil man. The other person thinks that he's deity. So it's like there are extremes and focusing and the situation. And I think that like I said, both sides are just in a brainwashing, strange lack of critical thinking state of mind, and that and maybe it's just the hormones, because the country is in their puberty now and is being like in a kind of situation. It's like just like a human being gets like in the puberty. America is a young country, and I think it's like in the puberty now, and with hormones raging. And I expect that in the, I think that
I hadn't thought about that. I've been calling it a midlife crisis, but I think puberty is probably closer because it is still such a young country, and kind of going through that like rebellious teenager stage of trying to establish itself as what is this next phase of growth that it's going into. And Americans are so caught up in their video games and television and social media and cell phones and all of our technology that we don't even know how to have conversations anymore.
Yes,
very few Americans actually have conversations with other people, don't even know how to have a conversation where, one of the things that's really important for forward progress is this ability to agree to disagree, to have conversations and say, great, how can we come to a mutual consensus that is best for everybody? Americans don't seem to be capable of having those conversations right now because we are so divided that this way is the only way and this way is the only way, and not even understanding that we, the people, are actually the creators of our reality. We put way too much faith in our politicians.
And
ourselves.
Yes, it's true. And one thing that people are not aware of, it's not the system that makes the place better. It's the people. You can use all systems. I can make a communist country a living hell. I can make a communist country a paradise. I can make a capitalist country a living hell, and I can make a capitalist country a heaven. It's the people. It's the people. It's not the system. Because every system will be abused if the people are in a certain state of mind. If you're uncivilized, you're uncivilized. I mean, it doesn't matter if so it's oh god, I've got all these pop-ups. Excusez-moi. Let me see if I'm going to. Yes, I'm sorted. Okay. I can see
So do you guys speak Papiamento? Is that your language right yourself? I found that language to be fascinating because it's got little bits and pieces of so many different languages mixed in.
Yes.
And so the excusez-moi, you just cracked me up. Because...
yeah, because I'm like, oh. Yeah.
Going back to Curacao, I thought the road signs were fascinating because it would be like, yo, and then a big long word, like a Spanish word and then a Dutch word on the same billboard.
Yeah. It's the combination of the words, like if you have a sentence, half of the words are like Spanish sounding and the half of the words are Dutch sounding. So yes, and that's and yes, I think that's our uniqueness. I mean, being Caribbean, being Dutch at the same time, and being close to America. Yeah. I think that from all the countries I could have chosen to incarnate on, I mean, I think I did a reasonable good choice. I can't complain. Like,
you probably don't meet a lot of Americans. I know when I visited Curacao, I met very few Americans. I think most of the one I met was from Europe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there are not a lot of Americans. Most of them go to Aruba. Aruba is like more because Curacao, Aruba, and Bonaire both are Dutch islands, Leeward Islands. You can say it in English. And from them, like Aruba is like more popular with the Americans, and Curacao is more popular with the Dutch, especially probably because like it's Willemstad looks very similar to Amsterdam. So
does it? Yeah, it is a cute town. Yeah. And I remember all the windmills around the island. That was very Dutch reminiscent with all the windmills. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you ever come, please, I mean, don't be shy. Just call me, because I would love to invite you to a drink or something, as a little thank you note for you to, to come here and chat with me, because I know that you have lots of shows and a lot of stuff, bigger fish to fry, and still time, and I'm very grateful for that.
That was the first place I tried. Now, but I'm forgetting what kind of food it was. Anyway, I tried some different kinds of food in Curacao that we don't have in the U.S.
Like, I don't remember. Do you remember something?
Iguana.
Oh, did you have that?
Yeah.
And
it's like chicken.
Yeah, there's a chicken. That's what most people say. Reptilian meat.
Yeah. And the teeny tiny little bones. That was good. It was good. My daughters are very, very open-minded with food. So when we go to other countries, when we want to eat what the locals are eating, we don't want to eat hotel food. We want to find out what the locals eat. So I think that's also where we had goat. Oh,
yes. I love goat. Yeah. And in Willywood is like in countryside. It's like they call it Willywood, like Hollywood. So they have like these boards like in Hollywood, but they call it Willywood. In Willywood, they have now goat burgers. So
really? I think we just had goat stew.
Oh,
yeah.
It's so it's getting like in Willywood, it's getting very popular too, because there it's in the wild, the goats. So
well, that's what when we were there, we were surprised that it wasn't on all the menus, because the goats are just everywhere.
Yeah,
why isn't goat on more menus? Because it's so readily available.
Yes, now there are less, because like compared to like 10 years ago. Yes, because I remember when I was a kid, my mom would like shoo them away, because sometimes she would leave the doors open of our gate, and eat all the plants.
Anything.
And mom would be cursing them out, and I mean, that's one of those typical things, like remember to close the gate, because not because you're worried about the thieves. But because you're worried about the goats destroying all your plants.
Well, they kind of are little thieves.
Yes. But I it's all the hour has passed by. I mean, I wanted to talk about several things with you, but I mean, like I said, I decided I didn't want to to be very strict with I just wanted to meet you, have a chat with you, just like if you would have come over to my house for a barbecue or something like that, just meet you and get to learn to,
I will come over to your house for a barbecue. I'm putting you on. I will. I love carousel. And if you're ever in California, you're welcome to look me up. I live about 7 miles south of LAX, so I'm very close to the airport. So if you're ever in California, look me up. And
okay.
And it's It's not quite the same.
Yeah. Even if it's colder, but still,
It's still beautiful. This is too cold to play in.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much for chatting with me.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. It's been fun.
Okay, and if everything's okay, we're supposed to meet again, hook up. In your.
Oh yeah, you're going to be on my show. I'm going to have you on my show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.